Good afternoon, everyone. It's Lee the Appraiser for another episode of Amazing Appraising here in our brand new gallery. This is the place where you see everything of collectible nature on the spot. We do the appraisals on the spot. We have a very, very interesting piece here today. A gentleman here, your name is?
Joe.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Joe. How are you?
Same pleasure here, Lee.
How did you hear about us?
From your radio show.
My radio show.
Yeah.
What we have here is a very beautiful, on first glance, and here, let me first have my friend here tell us a little about what this is supposed to be.
Well, this is to commemorate the 1978 Cotton Bowl championship win, which was very famous because they busted out the green jerseys as historical reasons for that Cotton Bowl. It was the quarterback was Joe Montana at the time, which his signature is up here. And this signature is Joe Montana's signature from when he was in college, because when he went to the NFL, his signature changed. He used a giant J, M, and T with squiggle in between. So this
Question.
Yes.
Let's interrupt. Why did the signature change?
Because he did it for the NFL. I guess he's probably assuming that he's going to do a lot of signatures once he gets in the NFL, and writing it out nice and clear like that
Okay.
probably would take a little more time.
So what he is right, meaning that when a player realizes that they have the potential of being like acclaimed and a superstar, and there's going to be huge demand, they are going to want their signature to be nice to reflect the demand that they're going to be signed. Nice. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. And so this was done. It was a special made plaque. Okay, they did one for the administrator, which is a different print. Okay, and then there was a handful made for the faculty, none of which has even been on the internet. None of them don't even exist. We don't know where they are. This is the only one that's in existence right now on the internet. Not only that, we have down here Coach Dan Devine. Coach Dan Devine is famous for the movie Rudy. He was the coach for Mr. Rutenberg when he was on the Notre Dame, known for his one game with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And right next to his is a very famous gentleman from the earlier days, the 1940s, Ed Krause. His nickname was Moose, Ed Moose Krause. He is both in the football and the basketball Hall of Fame. He was the administrator that year. So they did this for a little commemoration, just a little gift. Not even the players, not even Joe Montana himself has one of these.
Okay. So how do we know that?
Well, I spoke to a gentleman whose cousin was on the team, where I got the information. He has the first one for the administrator, and he's keeping it. That's going with him to the grave. And he told me that his cousin was on the team, and he said that they did one for the administrator. He showed me a picture of it. It's a different print, different embossing. And he said the next day they did a quote-unquote handful, maybe 5, 10, for certain people that were associated with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at the time. And they did the signatures. And everyone is unique. Everyone is within its own.
So, so now we have a little background from somebody who did some research on it, and my goal here is when somebody comes in here, is the first thing I do is I try to figure out what it is or what it's supposed to be. I find out whether I believe it's authentic, whether the piece, the print itself is authentic. I find out if the signatures are authentic. When I say find out, that means I do my thought process here and look at it carefully. And then I figure out, well, okay, fine, if it is, and then that's the first thing I do. And then I work on the appraisal process, and then I come with my process of figuring, okay, fine. So now we have an idea what it is. Now let's put a valuation on now that we know what we're looking at. Okay? So let me just ask you this, and where did you obtain this item from?
Well, I obtained this from a retired school teacher who I believe was going to the Notre Dame University at the time. So I believe he acquired it from there, from one of the people. Maybe because, he was a good student, maybe because he meant something to the teacher that was there, but he got that as one of the few rare ones that were there.
And his, you don't have to disclose his name, but was his name, did you ask what his name was, one of the people signed it? No, right?
No, he was a teacher.
A school teacher.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so my first objective here is to see what we have here. I listen to what the client has, or what they say they have, and everything like that. So in my opinion here, it looks like this is a print. Then, so just for people that are looking at it, it measures approximately 20 by 36 inches would be my estimate. It looks like a print poster. I'm going to guess that this poster is probably a standard poster that was printed by itself. Forget the signatures, right? Do you know that, or you're not sure?
Well, as far as I know, this is a print that was just made for this specific reason. It was
It could
created
very well
for
be.
the university.
Okay, it could very well be for this. Okay, and it says here the University of Notre Dame Fighting Irish National Championship '77. So it appears to have been made just for that year '77 when they won the national championship, right?
Yes.
Okay. And all the signatures appear to be in a green Sharpie pen. You counted them. You came to 100. I looked at it quickly.
140.
I was going to say 150
140.
would just be my estimate. So the first thing we want to know is, so he gave us a little background of who the signatures are supposed to be. Any players, primarily it was the 4 years of college players that were in the football program. It would make sense that you have pretty much anyone that was affiliated in this program who signed it, okay? I always like to figure out also if something is signed, why somebody signed it. What's the reason they signed it? What's the reason the piece was made? Here it's pretty obvious, but the answers itself. Okay, so we're gonna say, now the first thing is, so how do I know these signatures are real? Okay, so this is the first time I've seen these pieces. Where's Montana? Montana is right up there, okay? And that's also typically, by the way, whenever you see a piece and you're looking, the star player should be in one of the most prominent places of the piece. They're making this piece and having the players sign. They want Montana to make sure he's there first, and one of the first ones. That's why if you have a baseball, on the sweet spot, you'll see Mickey Mantle on the sweet spot when the whole team signs. Typically the star player or the coach, the manager, will sign on the sweet spot because they will give it to him first. They don't want Mickey Mantle's signature to be scrunched. There might not even be room for a signature. If you put 30, this is a baseball, is not a poster.
Yes.
So if you have 25 signatures on a baseball, Mantle would say, I'd love to, but there's no room for my signature, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the reason. So Montana is one of the first that put it up there. Maybe they had one or two others. He may have just signed it on the top, whatever. Okay. So that just goes back to, so Montana had no reason to perfect his signature at that time. Okay. So just going back to this. So we're looking at it here. The signatures all, I can't say, now they all look to be original signatures. I don't know 90% of these players because Montana is really the key. You have the coach here, but pretty much that's it. Nobody else on this team became a well-known superstar. So they look okay to me, but I'm not going by comparison. I'm going by whether they're actually signed or printed. Okay? So the easiest way for me to tell, do you have an idea how for me to tell that they are actually signatures and not printed?
Different tones to the ink.
Better answer. How about this right here?
A hand rubbed across it
It's
while you
smudged. Okay? So it's not going to be smudged if it's a print.
Gotcha.
For two reasons. Okay, one is the hand or the ink actually smeared a little when it was being signed.
Poor Rusty.
And number two is, if it was a print, what would have happened? Rusty would have signed it. It would have been smeared. They would have cleaned it up, and they had Rusty sign it again. Got it? So you're not going to see anything smudged with a smudge that's going to be on a print. I mean, just logically.
Makes sense.
Okay. So, in my opinion, you have 140 original signatures here. I think it's all real. I think this is an original print that was made. And I think you have Montana's signature on the top here. In our reality show here, we tell it like it is, and the people here sometimes have higher expectations than it's worth. Okay, so you gave your idea, background, and history, which I'm sure is your opinion. I have to give you mine as a professional, okay? So the key thing that I noticed here, so I'm going on the premise that this is a piece signed by 150 Notre Dame alumni, and as any football fan knows, Notre Dame is one of the premier college football schools in the world. They're the Fighting Irish, everybody knows them. Being said, really you only have one player here, one signature that is sought after. I mean, somebody that has gained recognition. Now, he did gain international recognition, and in most views, you could say up until a couple years ago was considered the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Now you have Tom Brady, who probably, just by virtue of his more Super Bowls and longevity, I would have to say, honestly, I mean, that longevity is part of the picture. So I would have to say Brady probably eclipses him just by the fact he's still playing, right? Crazy. But anyhow, he's right up there. I mean, if you need one game to win, Joe Montana was, at that time, certainly arguably the greatest quarterback.
Especially 20th century. And,
Right,
and
right.
Tom Brady's also said Joe Montana was his mentor.
Right.
He looked up to him.
Right,
growing up.
got that. Well, you had to look up to somebody, and then you picked a good guy. Okay, so do you have any idea what you think it's worth or what you want it for? Just roughly.
Well, I was quoted at different numbers. One was a historic signature expert who actually said up to 100,000, which, you know, that's not what I was thinking about, but he said that.
Did he make you an offer of that?
No,
Did he say
no. He
so-
said from just historical value, because it can't be replicated. Coach Dan Devine and Ed Krause's passed, so there's if you want it, mine's the one he wants. But that's what I was quoted at. Another person 64, another one 50. My asking price at this time would be probably 50.
50K.
Yeah.
Okay. So anybody says worth 100 grand and they don't have any backers. Now, if I'm in a position where I have to really, if I give a figure, I have to have some basis for it, and people are going to say, okay, is that, you know, I can't tell them it's worth 100 grand if I'm going to pay them $1,000.
No.
Okay. So anyhow, so I think the one area, so far you've given me a lot of good information, and I have nothing to dispute with you, except when you come to the valuation, and that's one key here.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I also was told, because there's other players who have Super Bowl rings on this. There's a list of players: Bob Golick, Tim Foley. Not as prominent as Joe Montana. But
nobody collects posters on the basis of, oh, there were a couple guys that have a Super Bowl ring.
yeah.
Really here, there's nothing about that. You really have, this has to go to somebody who might be a Notre Dame fan, maybe
Yes.
someone's a Joe Montana fan.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
but there's nothing, here, I guess my point is this here. This is the key here, which I think
Okay.
you may have overlooked.
Okay.
Do you know what that number, can you read that number down at the bottom?
3 over 1,000.
What does that mean to you? Do you know?
That 3 of them were made. They were the 1,000, as far as I know, was never created. I don't even know what this means. Usually that means that 3 of 1,000 were made, but there's not 1,000 out there.
Okay, so that's a good point. I'm going to beg to differ with you, because the first number typically when you have a print, series, or edition, the first number is the number in the edition, and the second is the total number of the edition.
Mm-hmm.
So it is exactly what you said, that this is number 3 of edition of 1,000. Now, for you to say that you haven't seen another 999 out there, that's very possible.
So I have a story, if it's okay.
Fine.
Mr. Bob Berger. I contacted him in the medical field for athletes, sent him a picture. He thanked me. He said, "Thank you for sharing this." He goes, "I don't even remember signing this." He goes, "But that's my signature." So in my mind, if he had to sign 1,000 of these, I'm sure he would remember signing 1,000 of these plaques.
Okay, so that's a very good point. But then again, he doesn't remember even signing one. So I think there might be a basis that if he can't remember signing one, maybe he signed 1,000. In 99% of the cases, that number when they do a series is accurate. Okay, and I don't know if you noticed, but you did bring an authentication paper
Yes.
here, which is done by a company called JSA, which is also a respected authenticator, and he sort of agrees with me that it was number 3 of 1,000. So now, I have to take the position that probably 1,000 were made. Okay, now, it could be, who knows what happened to those 1,000, a completely separate story. Okay, meaning that 900 could have been destroyed, who knows what.
But was it finished? That's a question. Were they planning on doing 1,000, but then never
That was
finished the
another
series?
point I was going to bring up to you. That this means this is number 3 of 1,000. However, perhaps, very possibly, at certain point, they said, listen, we don't think we can get the players to sign. That's going to take them hours or days, a couple days or hours to do. They're all together here at the game. We wanted the chance, or whenever they did this. I don't think it's realistic for us to get them to sign 1,000 pieces. Maybe we can get them to sign 10, 20, 30, 40. So I'm going to say, for your benefit, even if I said they intended to make 1,000, realistically, I'd say the least that one could say that they made, that means with some sort of, certainty, I would say the minimum would have been 100 pieces. Just my feeling, that 100 pieces, okay? And I'm gonna go with that, and I'm gonna say even if 100 were made, I would estimate the price because of the demand. To me, and even if you had 1,000 pieces like that, I mean, I'll be frank with you, even if you had one, that's not going to increase the amount of people that are going to want to buy this and pay big bucks for it.
Okay.
If in fact this was one, it still wouldn't have that 50,000, in my opinion,
Okay.
because first of all, if there was an event, this had to be signed at an event. Do you know when? Do you know?
It was the locker room. They were taken down to the locker room to sign.
Okay. So that would be terribly unlikely that they would hold it for hours, each one, to sign. And that means each one. Like, that's very strange. So
The way I look at it, just my opinion,
Mhm.
3 of 1,000. Whatever it says, right now all we know is 3 was made. Until you find
no,
number
we don't know
4.
what they was. No, that's how you can't. That's not the way I would assess.
Oh no, I'm
that,
I'm
too.
saying like as far as we know, like where's number 90? Where's number 100?
No, you can't have an item here that it says 3 of 20,000, and I go, you know what? This is the only one because I looked around and I can't find any others.
You're right.
You can't use
No,
that
I
as
know,
a
I know,
basis.
yeah.
Okay.
Question.
Sure.
Is it possible